Welcome to the Korean Atlas and History. Each episode, we will take you on an exploration through some aspect of Korean culture, the landscape, the history, and more. Today, on the Korean Atlas and History, Korean Mountains. Mount Baekdu. Mount Baekdu is an active volcano located on the border between North Korea and China. Mount Baekdu is the highest mountain on the Korean peninsula, standing at 2,744 meters or 9,003 feet above sea level. The famous mountain appears in the national anthems of both North and South Korea. A large crater lake called Heaven Lake is in the caldera atop the mountain. Historically, Mount Baekdu was regarded as a sanctuary for designated sacrifices. People once believed that Baekdu Mountain housed a beast with the body of a snake and the head of a bull. Goryeo records mention an incarnation of Buddha living on Mount Baekdu, and the Shilla Kingdom mentions it as one of the 5 sacred mountains. Korean tradition calls it the home of Dangun, the father of Korea. Kim Il-sung and North Korea claimed that Kim Jong-il was born on Mount Baekdu. However, myths related to Baekdu Mountain appear not only in the Korean people, but also in the Manchus, especially in the Qing dynasty. In China, the mountain was called Huangshan Mountain, and later, in the period of the northern and southern dynasties, Taebaek Mountain, or Mount Tae. In modern times, it was unified as Changbei Mountain, which means Ever White Mountain, or Big White Mountain. This name is reflective of the 9 months of snow that the mountain receives per year. The name Baekdu means white-headed mountain. In Korea, the word Baekdu makes its first appearance in 981, but it is mentioned again in the 13th century in the Samguk Yusa, a famous Korean historical text. Besides Baekdu Mountain, Koreans also refer to it as Changbai Mountain and Baek Mountain. The name Baekdu has been used more and more frequently since the end of the Joseon dynasty. The mountain has been an important landmark to the Korean and Chinese people for centuries. At present, China manages half of the mountain and North Korea manages the other half. The highest peak of Baekdu was once called Byungsa-bong, which means Soldier's Peak. The name comes from the word Byung-ma-jer-do-sa, which is the name of a high-ranking officer. Over time, it was shortened from Byung-ma-jer-do-sa to Byungsa. Byungsa, however, has the meaning of a low-ranking enlisted soldier, like a private. In 1963, Kim Jong-il visited the peak, and because his father was supposedly born there, he declared that the word soldier was not a high enough rank to be the birthplace of his father. Thus, he renamed the mountain Jonggun-bong, or General's Peak. Even though many of the officials with Kim Jong-il at the time probably knew the origin of the word did not actually mean a low-ranking soldier, who could argue with the great leader? Among the upper classes of North Korea, the highest class is known as Baekdu-san class. This is a general term used to refer to families and aides who have not been purged from the beginning of the Kim regime until the present. After the end of the Korean War, the North Korean and Chinese border passed through Baekdu Mountain, with 54.5% belonging to North Korea and 45.5% belonging to China. Precisely 9 of the 16 peaks of the mountain belong to North Korea, and 7 belong to China. For this reason, many South Koreans feel that North Korea sold half of Baekdu Mountain to China. It seems, however, that this is not historically accurate. In 1712, Baekdu Mountain was located just 4 kilometers from the Chinese city of Chunji. In other words, even in 1712, the northern part of Baekdu Mountain was occupied by the Qing dynasty. Yet, South Korea does not recognize North Korea's current agreement with China. South Korea maintains that all of Baekdu Mountain still belongs to Korea. Taiwan is involved too. Taiwan does not recognize Chinese treaties, and Taiwan also claims hold over the whole of Baekdu. Due to high latitudes and altitudes, the summit of this mountain is the coldest place on the peninsula. It is winter from October to May, with an average temperature of negative 25 degrees Celsius in January and an average temperature of 7.8 degrees Celsius in July, showing a temperature distribution similar to that of Siberia, with a precipitation of 1,500 millimeters. On January 2nd, 1997, the mountain was recorded at minus 51 degrees Celsius. Mount Baekdu is often compared to Mount Fuji, yet Baekdu has many more peaks with over 2,000 meters, or 6,500 feet, than Mount Fuji. The weather on Mount Baekdu is highly changeable, with heavy rains, strong winds, snow, clouds, and fog. Because of this, the mountain rarely has clear weather. Tour guides joke that if you look at the mountain 100 times, it's hard to see clear skies twice. Mount Baekdu was 3,500 meters, or 11,500 feet high, prior to its millennium eruption. The eruption happened around 1,000 years ago, in November 946, but most current scholars agree that this explosion in the 10th century consisted mostly of pumice, and the eruption that blew off the top happened much earlier than that. In recent years, Mount Baekdu has been somewhat active. In 2002, a 7.3 magnitude earthquake occurred in northeastern China. In 2003, the area suffered from cracks in the earth and landslides. In 2004, trees in the valley forests were found dead, with no observable reason for their death. It has been presumed that they died from toxic gases released into the surface through interstices. Mount Baekdu shows hydrothermal activity at several sites, thus it is not completely resting. Some argue that the volcano's activity has gradually increased in the 2000s. But since the limit of geophysical measurement and monitoring facilities are underdeveloped, many guesses about the underground structure of Mount Baekdu are literally just guesses. Since the late 1980s, tourists have been able to freely travel to Mount Baekdu through China. There are 2 routes that tourists can take, a car journey and a climbing route. The car journey takes you to the nearest weather station and then onward to an astronomical observatory. The climbing route, on the other hand, is rather gentle and can be done in about 40 minutes. Many tourists choose this route as it gives them the opportunity to walk 100 meters into the North Korean border. This is the only place in which South Koreans have the opportunity to set foot into North Korean territory without the permission of the Ministry of Unification. This is possible because of an interesting characteristic of the border area between China and North Korea, in which North Korea controls the area but does not claim sovereignty. Mount Baekdu has more than 160 species of plant life around the peak. The forest on the Chinese side is ancient and nearly untouched by humans. Birch and pine mix along the tree line. Animal species living near or on the mountain include Siberian tigers, bears, Amur leopards, wolves, roe deer, and wild boars. Wild birds also inhabit the area, including black grouse, owls, and woodpeckers. Among the tourist sites, there are many waterfalls, including Hyungjae Falls, which splits into two separate falls about a third of the way from the top. Another tourist site is a large metal sign that reads, Holy Mountain of the Revolution. The sign was placed on the mountain in 1992 on the 80th birthday of Kim Il-sung. According to North Koreans, there are 216 steps to the top of the mountain, which represent the date February 16th, the birth date of Kim Il-sung. In reality, there are more than 216 steps. Mount Baekdu is truly an important and historical place to the Koreans, Chinese, and the Taiwanese. From monuments to natural springs and waterfalls to historical landmarks, this mountain is truly a sight to behold. Its wonder and beauty have inspired people for generations and will continue for generations to come. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Korean Atlas and History. Most of today's information was taken from the Namu Wiki and Wikipedia. We hope you enjoyed this program, and we hope you check out our Facebook page. See you next time!